Hello, boys and girls. Today, to start our lesson, in case you weren't able to make it to the live meeting, we read chapters 16 and 17, so I'm going to read those. And my screen is just going to stay as it is, but I just want you to follow along with the story and follow along with what happens in these two chapters that we're going to read, and then we'll get into the lesson. So if you remember in chapters 14 and 15, Rob actually took Sistine to see the tiger. They saw the tiger, and then they had to run out of the woods because they heard a car coming. So they go back to the motel. Rob's father sees Sistine. He lets her go make a phone call so that she can call her mom. And then Rob gets really upset with himself because he is thinking about his mom, and it says he scolds himself for thinking about it. So that lets us know that he's upset with himself for letting his suitcase open up a little bit. So we're going to start chapter 16 and 17 today, and then we'll get on with our lesson. Chapter 16. Rob sat out on the curb in front of the motel room and waited for Sistine to come back from using the phone. He had her green dress wrapped up in a grocery bag. He had tried to fold the dress up neatly, but folding a dress turned out to be an impossible task, and he finally gave up. Now he held the bag out and away from him so that the grease from his medicine on his legs would not stain it. He was relieved when Sistine finally walked towards him out of the darkness. "Hey," he said. "Hi." She sat down on the steps next to him. "How come you don't have a phone?" Rob shrugged. "Ain't got nobody to call, I guess." "My mother's coming to get me," Sistine said. Rob nodded. "Here's your dress." He handed her the bag. Sistine took it and then tilted her head to look up at the sky. Rob looked up too. The clouds had shifted and there were clear patches where the stars shone through. "I can see the Big Dipper," Sistine said. "I like looking up at things. So do my mom and dad. That's how they met. They were both looking up at the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel and they weren't watching where they were going, and they bumped into each other. That's why I'm named Sistine." "I like your name," said Rob shyly. "I've seen the Sistine ceiling too," she said. "They took me last year, before Bridget, when they were still in love." "Does it look like the pictures?" Rob asked. "Better," said Sistine. It's like looking at fireworks, kind of." "Oh," said Rob. "Maybe we can go to Italy sometime, and I could show you." "That would be all right," said Rob. He smiled into the darkness. So he smiled at the thought of doing something with Sistine. So that tells us he likes their friendship, right? "The tiger can't look up at the stars," said Sistine, her voice getting hard. "He's got that piece of wood over his head. He can't look up at all. We've got to let him go." Rob was silent. He was hoping that if he didn't answer her, she might go back to talking about the Sistine ceiling. "How did your mother die?" she asked suddenly. Ugh, Rob sighed. He knew there was no point in trying not to answer. "Cancer," he said. "What was her name?" "I ain't supposed to talk about her," said Rob, closing his eyes to the stars and concentrating instead on his suitcase, working to keep it closed. So you know that he's trying to keep that suitcase closed is what it says, so he's trying not to talk about these things. "Why not?" asked Sistine. "Because my dad says it don't do no good to talk about it. He says she's gone and she ain't coming back. That's why we moved here from Jacksonville, because everybody always wanted to talk about her. We moved down here to get on with things. So they moved so they could get over his mother dying and move on." There was a crunch of gravel. Rob opened his eyes in time to see the headlights of a car sweep over them. "That's my mother," said Sistine. She stood up. "Quick," she said. "Tell me your mother's name." Rob shook his head. "Say it," she demanded. "Caroline," Rob said softly, cracking his suitcase open and letting the words slip out. Sistine gave him another business-like nod of her head. "Okay," she said. "I'll come back tomorrow, and we'll make our plans for letting the tiger go." "Sissy," called a voice. "Baby, what in the world are you doing out here?" Sistine's mother got out of the car and came walking towards them. She had on high heels, and she wobbled as she walked in the gravel parking lot of the Kentucky Star. Her hair was a lighter shade of yellow than Sistine's, and it was piled up high. When she turned her head, Rob recognized Sistine's profile, her sharp chin and pointed nose, but the mouth was different, tighter. "Good Lord," said Mrs. Bailey to Sistine. "What have you got on?" "Clothes," said Sistine. "Sissy, you look like a hobo. Get in the car." She tapped her high-heeled foot on the gravel. Sistine didn't move. She stood beside Rob. "Well," said her mother when Sistine didn't move, "you must be Rob. What's your last name, Rob?" "Horton," said Rob. "Horton," said Mrs. Bailey. Are you related to Selden Horton, the congressman? No, ma'am, said Rob. I don't think so. Miss Bailey's eyes flicked away from him and back to Sistine. Baby, said Mrs. Bailey, please get in the car. When Sistine still didn't move, Mrs. Bailey sighed and looked back to Rob again. She won't listen to a word I say, Miss Bailey told him. Her father is the only one she'll listen to. Then under her breath she muttered, her father, the liar. Sistine growled somewhere deep in her throat and stalked to the car and got in and slammed the door. You're the liar, she shouted from the back seat of the car. You're the one who lies. Geez, said Miss Bailey. She shook her head and turned and walked to the car without saying anything else to Rob. Rob watched them pull away. He could see Sistine sitting in the back seat. Her shoulders were slumped. A motel room door slammed. Somebody laughed. A dog barked once, short and high, and then stopped. And then there was silence. Caroline, Rob whispered into the darkness. Caroline, Caroline, Caroline. The word was so sweet as forbidden candy on his tongue. Chapter 17. The next morning, Rob was helping Willie Mae in the laundry room. They were folding sheets and chewing 8-ball gum. All night he had tossed and turned, scratching his legs and thinking about the tiger and what Sistine said, that he had to be set free. He had finally decided to get Willie Mae's opinion. So we know here that if he's got to get Willie Mae's opinion, he has to tell Willie Mae about this tiger. It's a big step for him. You ever been to a zoo? Rob asked Willie Mae. One time, she said. She cracked her gum. Went to that zoo in Sorley. Place stunk. Do you think them animals minded it, being locked up? Well, wasn't nobody asking them, did they mind? Willie Mae pulled another sheet out of the dryer and snapped it open. Rob tried again. Do you think it's bad to keep animals locked up? Willie Mae looked at him over the top of her glasses. She stared at him hard. Rob looked down at his feet. When I wasn't but little, said Willie Mae, my daddy brought me a bird in a cage. It was a green parakeet bird. That bird was so small, I could hold it right in the palm of my hand. She draped the sheet over one shoulder and held out a cupped hand to show Rob. It looked, to him, like a hand big enough to hold the entire world. Held him in my hand. I could feel his little heart beating. He would look at me, cock his head this way and that. Called him Cricket on account of him all the time singing. What happened to him? Rob asked. Willie Mae bent and took a pillowcase out of the dryer. I let him go, she said. You let him go? Rob repeated, his heart sinking inside like a stone. I couldn't stand to see him locked up, so I let him go. She folded the pillowcase carefully. And then what happened? I got beat by my daddy. He said I didn't do that bird no favor. Said all I did was give some snake its supper. So you never saw him again? Asked Rob. Nuh-uh, said Willie Mae, but sometimes he comes flying through my dreams, flitting about and singing. She shook her head and reached for the sheet on her shoulder. Here, she said, go on and grab a hold of the other end. Help me fold this up. Rob took hold of the sheet, and as it billowed out between them, a memory rose up before him. A memory of his father, standing out in the yard, holding his gun up to the sky, taking aim at a bird. So this isn't happening right now, it's him thinking about a memory of when this happened in the past. You think I can hit it? His father said. You think I can hit that itty-bitty bird? Robert, his mother said, what do you want to shoot that bird for? To prove I can, said his father. There was a single crack, and the bird was suspended in midair, pinned for a moment to the sky with his father's bullet. Then it fell. Oh, Robert, his mother said. It hurt the back of Rob's throat to think about that now. To think about the gun and his mother and the small thud the bird made when it hit the ground. I know something that's in a cage, Rob said, pushing the words past the tightness in his throat. So he says that to Willie Mae now. Willie Mae nodded her head, but she wasn't listening. She was looking past Rob, past the white sheet, past the laundry room, past the Kentucky Star. Who don't, she said finally. Who don't know something in a cage? After that, they folded the sheets in silence. Rob thought about the bird and how when he had finally found its small, still warm body, he had started to cry. His father had told him not to. It ain't nothing to cry over, he said. It's just a bird. So there's a lot in these two chapters, especially right there at the end. He told Willie Mae about he said he knew something that was in a cage, and Willie Mae didn't really think he was being serious. She thought just, people are caged, things are caged up sometimes, meaning they can't be free. But we know that Rob was serious and he meant something. really that something was in a cage talking about the tiger. So this is our first video. There's going to be another video for today's lesson, so make sure you watch that video as well.